Hi everyone. I wanted to start this module off with a video. Sometimes when I get really excited, it's expressing myself through talking is the best way I can get across my thoughts. And I was initially going to write something, but then the more and more I was reading the chapters, I was getting excited about the story I was forming in my own mind and everything I was reading, and I just needed to kind of pour out all my thoughts and emotions. So there were really three story explorations that really spoke to me. And the first one was voice, maybe because I'm an actor, but also talking about your voice jumped out to me initially because when I think about stories and storytelling and fairy tales, I always remember when I was a kid, my dad would tell me and my sisters bedtime stories. And that's where I think a lot of stories are told. Maybe going to your kids when you're going to bed, and a lot of these stories, maybe you have your eyes closed, and so the voice is so important and integral because when your eyes are closed, it's like your hearing turns up a notch, and it's even more important. And so my dad would do different voices for different characters, and I just remember visualizing it so clear. When I close my eyes now, I can see the image that I had when I was a kid of this Peter the Rabbit story he was telling me, and he never drew it out. It's all images that are in my brain from the voices that he gave. Anyways, so some things I highlighted in the book, in the chapters. So in the voices section, it said depths of imagination open depths of sound and language, which is something I really liked. And then another line I highlighted was, opening our speech center is one of the most powerful things we can do for ourselves and others. And it gave an example of a girl in, the author gave an example of a girl in class who was maybe kind of chatty, and she wasn't sure how she was going to tell a story, but then when she was told to present a story, she kind of gave this almost storyteller voice, and a lot of kids have those. And the section really spoke to how these kids kind of have these stories in them, and how we all have a voice inside our hearts and our centers, and bringing them out. I just thought was really interesting. Yeah, and you could do animal voices. You can. I like that it mentioned you can do the voice of a rock and what that might sound like. It doesn't even have to be humans or animals, and it's really essential to storytelling. Okay, so the next, talking about endings, how it might seem every fairy tale ends with a happy ending, and why is that? And I just thought this section really answered a lot of those questions. I highlighted. In it, it said, hope is food and fuel. Its immaterial nutrients circulate through us from the evolutionary centers of our universe. Whew, I just had like a light bulb, because that's exactly what it is. It's not like fairy tale ending in a happy way isn't just, yeah, like to make you end with a smile. No, it's because we're innately built to be fueled on hope and joy, us as humans. And then in another thing I highlighted, it says, the classic fairy tale ending gives a golden blueprint for our ultimate growth towards steady, wise rulership. Its wedded bliss tells us that we are all one and eternal when we experience true love. So the finding of yourself, or finding true love, it speaks to this blueprint almost human beings are given, and our eternal quest to find this happiness is in our DNA in some way, shape, or form. That's how our lives are almost written for us. So when we have stories like that, it evokes those same feelings of accomplishment and joy. And I liked when the author talked about how telling these stories to maybe children of maybe more troubled children, or from troubled homes, and it gives stories or fairy tales like this they give the children maybe a relatable experience. Maybe they relate to this fairy tale creature and the message that it gave across, and that it had a happy ending. Maybe when a child heard this fairy tale, it was the first time that they ever realized that somebody else was going through the same thing. But maybe nobody in their life had talking to them one-on-one about it. But they hear a fairy tale about a princess who's struggling, with her looks or with how she sounds, and this child had never heard that before, and so that the ending kind of resolving, I think, is really important, and it's not just like a fluff thing. It's almost essential to storytelling and fairy tales. And so the next one I really liked is the descending section in chapter 2. I'll just read some of the lines I highlighted. If you follow this descent, you will come to deeper levels of earth life, and of yourself. As you descend into story terrain, you may also discover gnomes and dwarves. I really liked this because I think when you I can imagine myself like digging deep down, like within inside of me, and finding these creatures or different worlds, and then that's what stories and fairy tales are almost about, are like finding these weird depths of your soul. Another line I highlighted: our bodies contain many mysterious caverns, openings, and branching circulations of nerves and blood. A story can illuminate the lower depths of our circulatory powers. Whoa, so cool. You have the power to descend into your darkest centers of will. I just love that. And I really want to incorporate that into my story, because and if I hadn't read that, I wouldn't have thought of the descending section. But I was like, I had another light bulb. I was like, yes, this is what the story, like, at least I want my story to have, because it's what makes it, not makes it a fairy tale, but gives it that texture of going into a different world, and you can almost create anything you want, new people, new animals, new things, and discover like what's inside of you. Okay, so I want to talk about the actual story that I'm thinking of. So while I was reading all these chapters, all these ideas are going through my brain, and I started with this idea of a lizard. I don't know why, and then I decided, oh, maybe a chameleon. So I'm just gonna speak what I wrote down of like my rough story so far. So I said, a chameleon who every time he lies or does something bad or is embarrassed or has maybe any type of emotions, he changes colors. And he's really embarrassed by this and ashamed. Maybe he gets picked on at school. I'm not exactly sure yet. And his mom tries to reassure him, but he really just doesn't like the skin that he's in. So one night he attempts to cover himself in dirt and in mud and hide who he truly is. And so this night, like when he covers himself in dirt and mud, all of a sudden a snake appears, and the snake thinks that this chameleon is one of him, and drags the chameleon kind of down into this tunnel, the snake world. And so the snake brings the chameleon into the snake world, and it's really scary. The living quarters are messy. The snakes are mean, and he misses his mom. He can hear his mom call out from him from above ground, and it's I really want to play with maybe like the mystery of the snake world, and it's scary, and it's not like his world, and he misses the comforts of his own world. He can hear his mom calling up for him, and then so he discovers a plan to escape, and he shakes off the mud, and for the first time, he uses his powers of changing colors almost for good, and he disguises himself in a way to escape from the tunnel. And this is the first time he realizing the like beauty of him being able to change colors and not just being embarrassed about it. So then he triumphantly makes this escape, and he runs back into his mother's arms, and yeah, and it's a happy ending in a way. And yeah, that's kind of the rough outline of it. I like it, and I'm very happy. I'm excited to develop it more. I think it has a good base, and I think I can discover a lot of cool things about like the snake world. And I gotta come up with a chameleon name, and so if anyone has suggestions, but I gotta come up with a good name. Okay, I'm gonna exceed 10 minutes, so hopefully that was enough. Thanks, guys.